I will be reviewing Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, so let's get into it. So the first thing I really want to talk about is the cinematography, because that's the first thing that stood out to me immediately. And the cinematography was awful in this movie. I really did not like the cinematography. The camera work was just terrible, and the lighting for the movie was very, very bad. And for $100,000 budget, they could have definitely cut that and used a little bit for the camera crew. So the next thing I really want to talk about is the makeup effects. Now, they are in this movie ferocious, awful, and you could just see and feel that this mask came from a Party City aisle during the Halloween season. It is so low budget, and let me just tell you yet again, movie lovers, that this movie cost $100,000. $100,000. Where did that money go? It did not go to the cinematography, I can tell you that. So why not put it to the makeup like an average writer and director would do? But they didn't, and now it just looks like a man in a mask running and killing people as Winnie the Pooh. When he's eating the honey, you don't even see his mouth move. It's not at all realistic. It just looks like a man in a mask. And same with Piglet. They did not do him well either. So now I want to talk about the characters in this movie. The characters in this movie are really, really cheesy, very, very badly written, and terribly acted, honestly. They have the same problems that every other person in a horror movie has. They always stop and look behind them to see if the killer's chasing them, and they ultimately are surprised when they get caught and killed. It's a very stupid thing in horror movies, a very unnecessary thing in horror movies, just to make sure that a certain character died. But the two standouts of this movie were definitely the actor behind Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh. Christopher Robin's actor, Nikolai Leon, really did a fantastic job, because basically his entire role in the movie was just to be terrified because he was kidnapped by Winnie. So he did that really well. He acted like he was afraid extremely well, and was honestly more pleasing than anything the rest of the actors and actresses side Winnie the Pooh had to really offer. But speaking of the big man himself, Winnie the Pooh actor Craig David Downset really did an amazing job in the role. He really put the movements of Winnie the Pooh really good and took them to heart, I think, definitely. And his timing with his movements were really well, and every action scene you got with him, you knew he was going to tear somebody apart, really sell the show. And honestly, he was the reason I ended up really enjoying this movie. So now I want to move on and talk about the horror in this movie. Now, the horror in this movie is definitely one of the best things I could really say about this film, because they do the horror perfectly in this movie. It is scary, it is sometimes suspenseful, because you really don't know who's gonna live or die, and if you haven't seen this movie yet and you're watching this review, you will be surprised with who lives and dies, but I'm not gonna say who lives and dies within this movie, and that's gonna be really up to you to go check out the movie. It is currently streaming on Peacock, so help yourself and enjoy. But the horror in this movie is just so entertaining, and for $100,000 you could really see a good amount of that budget did end up going to the horror element, because there's a lot of blood and gore within this movie. So I think that maybe the budget ended up actually going to the horror, because earlier in the video I did mention that I wonder where the budget went for this movie. The answer is to the horror, to the blood, to the gore, to the practical effects of limbs flying everywhere. You know, they really did definitely put all their money to that specific thing, and honestly they did that very well. The horror is one of the best things I could really say about this movie. It is perfect. It is entertaining for the entire hour and 35 minutes. You know, this is not a very long movie, but every piece of horror you get, you enjoy. So now I want to talk about the action sequences. The action sequences, although very small, they are extremely entertaining. Extremely entertaining. It is awesome to see Winnie the Pooh killing people. It is with great taste and effects that he does it with, and same with Piglet. Piglet gets a good little pool scene where he's chasing a victim with an axe and eventually catches up to her. And there's another scene where Winnie the Pooh is throwing somebody in the grinder. There's a bunch of awesome sequences that are full of action, especially that final battle where our final girl is fighting Winnie the Pooh. That is an awesome battle, and it is very enjoyable action within this movie, especially when a mob of people decide to team up on Winnie and try to kill him, but ultimately fail and all die in their own gruesome badass ways. And that was well written, and the action sequences were well written and perfectly executed. I definitely think I was entertained every single second that we got an action sequence. And I was very happy that this movie ended up being more action-packed slash horror than horror slash action-packed, really. Because with horror, we all want really action-packed sequences with the mix of horror. But really, in recent years, horror movies have not been managing to do that. But with this movie, they balance horror with action perfectly. Whether it's a chase scene, whether it's a fight scene, it is executed perfectly. Speaking on action, I want to talk about now the final battle. The final battle is epic, combining our final girl with also Christopher Robin, and honestly, this is the time where this actress really stands out compared with the character of Christopher Robin. Very well written scene, well executed scene, and I really enjoyed this final battle, really. And of course, the way this battle ends will surprise you. It does not end with Winnie dying, but it is very, very enjoyable to see these two team up against Winnie, especially considering they're both injured already because of what Winnie has done to them, but yet they're still able to hold their own. Eventually, he wins, of course, but still not the point. This action sequence was definitely the best of the entire movie, going direct hand in hand with the mob scene. That scene was also amazing, but we're talking about the final battle here. The final battle was very well written, executed, like I said, and I really, really enjoyed it, and it was definitely, for me, the highlight of the film, and the best part of the film in total. So overall, this movie does get a 7 out of 10. It is very, very enjoyable, but it also has its flaws. The writing is, like I said, questionable. The budget really is wasted on things it shouldn't be. But really, this movie did exactly what it said it was going to do. Made Winnie the Pooh a horror character. And I cannot wait to see what the future for this will be. I will be making a review for Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. That will be an interesting video. But if you made it this far into the video, like, subscribe. And this has been Mr. Movie Reviews. Take care.